Sal Pal Friday as well, as he joins us now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Sal Paolantonio, it's good to see you, man. Happy Father's Day weekend to you, and I know it's a little quiet time in the NFL, but we got a lot going on. The Eagles just finished up, and we got this new book from Sal Pal we're going to discuss in just a couple of moments here. How are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Mike. Good to see you. Good to talk to you. I'm glad you're back safe and okay from London. That was a great little two-game series the Phillies had. And, minicamp, Mike, for the Philadelphia Eagles, the first full mandatory minicamp of the Nick Sirianni era was very interesting. There were a lot of intriguing little storylines that went on, and a lot of interesting things that will carry over into training camp. I think the most important thing was the new look of the defense and the presence of some veterans at all three levels of this defense. You had to remake that defense, and you could just tell that C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Devin White, Bryce Huff, they all had a presence on this defense, along with the unseen presence, unseen hand of Vic Fangio. I was fascinated by how that was all getting itself together rather quickly.
I want to talk more about the mini camps in just a second, but I know you read 33rd Team, and I don't know if you came across this article either yesterday or today, but it came across. They ranked the rosters in the NFL. Philadelphia, number 2. Are we overlooking this team and this roster? It feels like people don't know what to think about this Eagles team. I was pretty surprised. Pro Football Focus had them number 3, 33rd Team number 2. Is this Eagles team better than everybody is kind of giving them credit for?
Oh, I saw that, Michael. And I think that their roster definitely is in the top 3. There's no question about it. They have firepower on offense. They have a good mix of young and old on defense. The addition of Saquon Barkley, I realize, he's got over 2,000 carries. He's 27 years old. He's already had a major knee injury, major knee surgery that he's had to come back from. But the Eagles invested $37 million in this guy, and he is going to be, I think, a very important part of Kellen Moore's offense, both in the running game and in the passing game. That was very evident during minicamp practice. Just his presence on the field, I think, will be significant. So I think their roster is in the top 3 of the National Football League, despite losing Jason Kelce, who led the offensive line in snaps last year, despite losing Fletcher Cox, both to retirement. Cox was on the field 54% of the defensive snaps last year. They're going to miss both of those players, and young players will have to take their place and do a lot of work in order to live up to what they did last year. But I do agree with them, both Pro Football Focus and 33rd Team, that the Eagles have a top 3 roster.
Are the Eagles better than everybody's giving them credit for? Because it feels like people are skeptical. They don't know what to think. And you talked about it, the coordinators, Vic Fangio, and how much that will impact the changes on this defense. You talked about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Sal. That corner room, if you went to training camp and just watched the battle at corner, you're going to see a party over there. I mean, that's going to be an interesting battle with the 2 rookies. What do they do with James Bradbury? And then that group of the other guys, Isaiah Rodgers and Josh Jobe and obviously Eli Ricks and Kaylee Ringo. They got a lot of guys that are very intriguing.
They do, and they're all pushing one another. That's pretty clear. The rookie Mitchell is making a big jump. I'm interested to see how that plays out. Isaiah Rodgers is going to get a run for his money, but listen, last year in 2023, there were 4 cornerbacks picked in the first round. All 4 of them started for their respective teams. If Mitchell does not start for the Eagles at corner, then that, to me, would be a major setback for this team.
Same feeling on Cooper DeJean. Does he have to be a starting player or a big factor, or is that a disappointment if he's not?
I'm interested to see where they're going to play him. He was drafted as a corner. He's listed on the depth chart as a backup in the slot. So, could he see time at safety? Perhaps. He could do a lot of different things. He's obviously got return skills, but, he is going to be in the mix. But both of these guys, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, are going to push for starting jobs. And, competition is good, especially in training camp. And Mike, so is depth. So is depth. It's a 17-game season. I mean, that's why you have groups like 33rd Team and Pro Football Focus looking at the entire roster.
No doubt. Obviously, the linebacker is always a question with this team. Devin White, Nakobe Dean, we'll see how that all plays out there. That defensive line rotation, who takes the snaps for Fletcher Cox. How about Becton playing guard? Does that intrigue you at all?
Oh, it does. Becton's a former first-round pick, for sure. Moving him to guard, he was a tackle, is going to be interesting. Listen, they got to find the right combination. They have the best offensive line coach in the league. But more important, Mike, to me, is, I wrote 3 notes down on Kellen Moore's offense that what I saw at mandatory minicamp and what I'm looking for in training camp. Number 1 was motion and shifts to create favorable matchups. Last year, the Eagles were near the bottom in the league in motion, pre-snap motion, and shifts. And as a result, they presented a very vanilla picture to defenses. And, they had no real, I thought, snap, crackle, pop for Jalen Hurts. The second thing is the blitz beaters. You don't see that very much in minicamp, but you'll see it certainly during training camp. And the blitz is what really crushed the Eagles offense down the stretch. They really had no answer, which is kind of shocking that a team at that level would have no answer week in and week out. But number 3 was who calls the protection on offense. How does it get called? Who calls it? Because Jason Kelce was among the best, really, in my view, ever to do it in an Eagles uniform. His ability to see and recognize what the defense was presenting and call a protection for Jalen Hurts, despite the fact that they had problems with blitz beaters last year, he was still in charge of that. Now you put Cam Jurgens in there. You have to have Jalen Hurts into the mix. Stoutland, Kellen Moore, all of this has got to be built in to protect the quarterback so they have answers to where the blitz is coming, whether it's overload, whether it is guys backing out into coverage. It's going to be fast. To me, that's it's not sexy, Mike. It's not sexy, but boy, is it important.
It's something, I think Wink Martindale was on a podcast the other day. My producer was telling me, he talked about how difficult it was as a coordinator to game plan because of Kelce and how good he was. And all of the things you just mentioned, how he picked up the blitz and pointed it out, and that made his job as the coordinator that much more difficult. How does Jurgens take over that role? I talk about that as it's almost like a something that we're almost like taking for granted, that one guy's gone, the next guy's going to step in and just do the same thing. Probably not.
Well, you would hope. He certainly got the training for it. Kelce's going to be in the building helping him. You got the best offensive line coach in Jeff Stoutland, so he's not going to have, for lack of training and coaching, but you still got to go out there and do it. Again, it's not sexy, but I have it in my top 3 as the most important things to look at with the offense. Number 4 would be Saquon Barkley. I'm very interested to see on first and second down how they're going to utilize him in the running game. What it's going to look like. Is it going to be RPO? Is it going to be quick hitters? Is it going to be, misdirection kind of stuff? Is it going to be stuff that involves Jalen Hurts off the edge? I'm fascinated to see. They're not going to reveal that, Mike, too much until they go to Brazil.
Do you anticipate Barkley being a bigger part of the pass game?
He'll be a 3-down back. That's what he was brought here for. You don't pay him $37 million to be there off the field on 3rd down, Mike. He's going to be a 3-down back. But, again, timing on those wheel routes, on those quick hitters on the edge. Jalen Hurts has got to get that timing with Saquon Barkley. The ball's got to come out quickly, and they definitely have to work on that. That'll be an important, integral part of what Kellen Moore, 2021, when Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator of the Cowboys led the NFL in points per game, points scored per game. And Dak Prescott had his best season as a pro. So Kellen Moore's got a lot of experience. He's only 35, but he's got 5 years running an offense at the NFL level. And Kellen Moore, let's be frank about it. You got Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, Sean McVay in L.A., you've got young coordinators who have become head coaches at the, and Kellen Moore, this is a time where he's got to, make his bones so that he can become a head coach. So there's two things here, Michael. There's pre-snap. The center comes up to the line of scrimmage and sees where the defense is and what approach they look like they're going to take. And then there's post-snap. After the snap, the shifts by the linebackers and the safeties. Who is pulling back into coverage? And luckily, they will be practicing against a Vic Fangio defense all summer, because what I saw was Fangio dropping linebackers, dropping White, dropping Jeremiah Trotter Jr., dropping Bryce Huff into coverage all the time. So that's something that will definitely be useful for Cam Jurgens to gain some experience.
Sal Pal, of course, the book is in my hand here for the people watching. And by the way, the viewership has shot up by about 50% since you have jumped on here. So everybody saw Sal Pal, and now they're jumping on. And here's the book, How Football Explains America, How Football Became Our National Pastime. And the book is out. When I got back from London, it was sitting right here for me. I had a good London trip, but a slice of Americana when I came home.
Yeah, that's nice, Mike. Thank you so much for promoting it. That's a brand new edition of that book that my publisher, Triumph Books, has put out. When I get to Ocean City this summer, make sure you bring your copy. And at Uncle Bill's, I will sign it for you for sure.
By the way, did you see what Jason Kelsey said about Uncle Bill's?
I've seen Jason Kelsey at Uncle Bill's many, many times. He loves Uncle Bill.
He said on the podcast, the best pancakes in the land.
There's no question. I mean, notwithstanding Mrs. Paolantonio, you understand that she's listening in the other room, but she loves it too. And I love, going to Ocean City and, either on Asbury Avenue or, down on 40th Street to one of those. So we've had breakfast there with Johnny G, the grinder team at Burger Realty. So I'm looking forward to bringing Johnny G a copy of this book, and you can get it at the Ocean City bookstore downtown. They've got copies of it, but Amazon.com has it for sure. Hopefully I'll do a signing in Ocean City this summer. But thank you for promoting the book. It's done, gangbusters, and it's a brand new edition of this book. You can get it on Amazon.com.
Now, do you have a favorite chapter? Is there one that kind of stands out to you in the book that you said that was my favorite one to kind of work on?
It really was the chapter that's called How Football Explains the 60s, because, that's when I grew up as a football fan. My dad was a big Green Bay Packer fan. Why? Because of Vince Lombardi. And we followed Bart Starr and the Packers during those championship years. And then Joe Namath showed up, and Namath became the siren song of a generation. And, it was the Packers and the Jets. And, that to me is when football really embraced the culture on television and became our national pastime and kind of usurped baseball.
Sal Paolantonio, the book is called How Football Explains America. There's also a chapter about how football explains show business. And, man, it has really become a show of shows. And one of the showmen is your buddy Merrill Reese over there. Did you? The last thing, I guess, would be anything. Everybody seems to be in a big hullabaloo about Hurts's lack of support for Sirianni. Anything there in your mind?
Well, Michael, I think he was inartful in his comments about Sirianni. That's pretty clear. He probably would love to take that back and be a little bit more supportive. Maybe he was just trying to be truthful. I think the bottom line is what people need to understand is this is Kellen Moore's offense. As Jalen Hurts said, we're changing 95% of the offense. And when you do that, you have to have total control and not much ancillary input. I use that word ancillary, but it is the head coach. And the head coach is going to be involved in game planning. Obviously, he has to be. But the bottom line is it's got to come from Stoutland, who's the run game coordinator, Kellen Moore, who's going to be the overall coordinator of the offense and calling the plays, and then Jalen himself. And Sirianni's going to have to be part of that. There's going to be a lot of cooks in the room to try to figure this thing out. Mike, I got to tell you, it's about the most complicated way you could possibly go about it. For a team that has the second best roster or the third best, however you want to calculate it, for a team that, I have headed towards the NFC Championship game, for a team that, it's Super Bowl or bust. It's going to be a complicated summer for this group.
Lot to learn. What did Jalen Hurts say? 95% of the offense is brand new, and he's trying to make it his own. And, he's wrapped into all that because it's another new offense for Jalen Hurts. It's like 7 and 8 years or something like that that he has had to learn a new offense. Once again, Sal Paolantonio, national correspondent, ESPN. The book is called How Football Explains America. It's a great beach prop for you there. You bring it down to the beach, you read a couple pages, you jump in the water, you come back and dive right back into the book all summer long. And, man, you said it. Training camp's going to be here before we know. When they start, like late July?
Yeah, yep.
Can't wait.
Yep, can't wait, Mike. And you have a great summer. I'll see you down in Ocean City. Thanks for all your promotion of the new book. And thanks for having me on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Sal. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon. Sal Paolantonio, everybody, here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.